Hi there folks, and welcome back to the Ever and Andy fishing channel. It's Andy again, and I'm out here on the river to film a fly fishing vlog that I am super excited about. I've been wanting to film this one for a long time. First of all though, we need to have a little bit of a chat. First off, Merry Christmas you filthy animals. I hope you've had a great one. I hope you really enjoyed it and you're full of turkey and stuffing and all the good stuff. You might have noticed, those of you who have subscribed to the channel, that IB and I have been pretty quiet of late, and for that we both want to really apologise. The day after we filmed the last film that we did, I was in a bit of a car accident and actually quite badly hurt my back, so that's kind of put me out of action for basically the last month or so. I've not really been able to work, so I haven't been doing much guiding. I've been doing very little fishing. This is the first time I'll have waded since before then, so it's been a little bit of a rough time for me. And on exactly the same day, Yeva managed to really badly injure her arm and was in a plaster cast for the best part of a month. So between us, we've been in the wars. IB is now out of the cast. We have tried to film a vlog for you guys a couple of times. I went down to do a light lure fishing vlog on a little stream that was totally blown. It was muddy and horrible. I gave up after an hour because it was hopeless. And then the day before Christmas, IB and I tried to go and film something for you guys on the canal. We tried to do a competition. We got down there, IB caught one fish, and then the weather absolutely crashed in on us. So we had to cut that short as well. The GoPros were starting to glitch out, and it was bad, it was grim. So unfortunately, it's been a difficult time. We're both on the mend now, we're both feeling much better, so we're getting back to it. This channel is up and running, so please stick with us. For those of you who aren't subscribed, we've picked up about 150 subs in the last few weeks, so huge thank you to you guys. Please keep with us. We're going to bring loads of content to you now. We're both feeling better, the conditions are looking good. So without further ado, I want to crack on and get in the water, because this one's going to be cool. So I'm here today to do some grayling fishing. Obviously there's not a huge amount of other fish we can fish for at this time of year. Now there's a huge amount of theory around grayling fishing. In the last 5, 6, 7 years it's become more and more popular. People don't want to put the rods away in the winter, and quite rightly so. We should keep fishing right the way through. There's no excuse to stop fishing just as it gets a little bit cold, you soft southerners. So there's loads of theory, loads of conjecture, and there's loads of cool new kit coming out. And I think one of the really important items of kit for the modern grayling angler has been the increase in popularity of the tungsten bead. When you think about it, it's such a simple thing, a little bead that you put in a fly. I've often wondered, as of most grayling anglers, why it is that grayling seem to like these brighter beads. We're talking pinks, the oranges, the whites, you know. Every grayling angler will have these flies in their box, and for good reason they work, but why? Everyone's got their own theory about it, but the more and more I fish for grayling, the more and more I've talked to people who fish for grayling, the more I've thought, actually, do you know what? Is it the bead that is making these fish eat the fly? You know, we're all doing beautifully dressed flies behind these beads, different types of hare's ears and pheasant tails and shrimps, and you know, they all look absolutely gorgeous. But is it necessary? So what I've done is I've tied up this box of flies. Now, I'll try and get you a closer look there. All this is a box of beads whipped to hooks. There are no dressings on these flies, this is just beads. My plan being that I'm going to fish these for the day, for the duration of the day if possible, and see if it is that actually we're all wasting our time tying these beautifully elaborate flies, and all we need to do is just whip some tungsten beads onto hooks, and that'll be enough for the grayling. It may or may not work, I'm not sure. If it isn't working out halfway through the day, then I have got my other fly boxes with me. I'm going to switch back to those fly boxes and we'll see if actually having a fly whipped properly and imitatively behind the tungsten bead makes a difference. But to start with, all I want to do is fish these tungsten beads and see if we're all wasting our time tying these beautiful flies, because all grayling want is a little dash of colour. You can see the river behind me looks absolutely beautiful. It's carrying a little bit colour and it's a little bit higher. It's about its winter level, so I don't think there's any excuses in terms of conditions. It all looks good to me, so let's get in this water. Let's see if we can catch some fish just using beads. Let's do it. Okay, so first things first. It's a lovely pool, this nice even gravelly pool, wide bubble line, but the bit I want to focus on to start with is this area down the inside. Now the river's slightly higher than it has been kind of for the last, well, since April. So I was just wondering if we might find a few fish up the inside here. I'm only fishing on the French leader today, and actually I've come out with a new rod. I've got the new Sierra Brook 10'2" out with me. So as well as figuring out if grayling just eat tungsten beads, we might get a little look at a new rod. So as I say, I have no intention of going too far across for the moment. I've started off, I've got 3 flies on it. I've got a pale pink, I've got a silver bead, and I've got a white bead on the point. I didn't go for that really bright orange bead because the water isn't too dirty. I don't think, if I was fishing here with normal flies, I don't think I'd have used an orange bead here, so haven't this time either. So my plan today isn't to explore the river too much. I want to just focus on the hot spots, obviously fishing a method, but I have no idea if this is going to work or not. I really just want to focus on the areas where I know there are generally fish. Give myself the absolute best chance of catching them on beads. Okay, so that little scene there hasn't produced anything. I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm not panicking. It may well be that the river is low enough and clear enough that those fish have moved over into the actual feed light, which is a little bit further across the river. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spend 5 minutes or so a little bit further over in the slightly deeper water in the area that looks more like where Grayling would spend the time normally. I'm also going to change that silver fly for one of the bright orange ones because it's a little bit deeper over there. Probably going to be less light getting down into the river, and that means that the brighter fly may well provoke a bit more interest. We'll give it a go. Okay, so delicate. So we'll just give it a try slightly further across the river. I'm not going to give this too long because we've got loads of spots I want to fish today. One thing that is in my favour here is that the water is slightly faster than it was in that scene, which means that if there are fish in here feeding, they've got a bit less time to see exactly what it is that's coming towards them, which could work in my favour. So I've crept over here just because this is where the highest concentration of foam's coming down the river. That's generally a pretty good indicator of where the food is coming through. I also know that this far side is actually quite shallow, which on slightly darker days, which this is still, the sun's trying to poke through, but it is still pretty bleak. It's easier for the grayling to see where they're feeding. Obviously we're talking about a fish here that is almost exclusively a sight feeder, and on those darker days it tends not to be conducive to good grayling fishing. So I just wonder if those hungry fish might have just found slightly shallower feeding lines, just areas where they can see the food that's coming towards them a bit better. Right, so first pool hasn't produced, and while I'm not panicking yet and I still think there's a chance we can get a fish on the bead flies, I must admit I was fully expecting fish out there. That's usually pretty productive, so whether or not that's a sign that this isn't going to work or not, I'm not sure. As I say, my plan is, if it isn't working, to come back and fish a few of these spots later on in the day, and we'll see if there were fish in there after all. But for the time being, we'll keep moving, we'll find some more fish. I'm sure this is going to happen. Okay, so spot number 2 behind me. You can see there, just about in this area here, there's a tree, there's a bit of a lay down on the inside, and often we find there's fish kind of sat just behind and around that. I think it's probably the perfect place to test out the bead flies. So that's the plan. I'm going to work up this pool pretty slowly. It's usually a good pool. If it's going to work anywhere, I think this would work here. Okay, let's climb into this one, see what we can find in here. I'm going to ignore this whole kind of next 10 yards or so. It's very, very shallow. It's not the place where I'm expecting to find them. Really, the honey hole here is the area behind that tree. You can see in front of me there's a big slack on the inside that basically takes up half of the river channel, and then coming off the side of this tree there's a fairly heavy flow line. And generally you'll get fish just in the slack nipping in and out of that flow line. So I'm going to stick fairly close to this bank to start with. I don't want to walk through this pool. We'll start back here and we'll work up slowly. Okay, so that's spot number 2 that's failed on me as well, and it's about now where I start to panic a little bit. That's 2 really good areas I fished there with these little beads, and not even a sniff of a fish, no bump takes or anything. The conditions are good enough today that I feel like I should be catching fish, so at the moment it's looking like the beads aren't going to work. I am going to give it 2 more hot spots though. I'm not going to give them this just yet. I particularly want to fish somewhere that's a little bit faster. I want some slightly faster water, just so it makes those fish make a decision a little bit quicker. So I'm going to seek out a couple of places where I can perhaps fish these nymphs a little bit faster. That'll give me more of an idea if this is possible, and if not, I think we go back through these 3 or 4 spots with some actual flies and see if the whole thing was a total waste of time. I'm still hopeful. I'm just starting to question it a little bit now. So this might be a little bit more like the kind of stuff we're looking for. You see there behind me, there's a little bit of pace up against that far side. It's actually a spot that I fished on a vlog a little bit earlier in the Grayling season, but obviously it's got a lot more water in it now and a lot more power, so whether or not those fish will still be there, if they're spread out, they could have moved up, they could have moved down, don't know, but we're going to give it a go, that's for sure, because it's an area that's produced fish this season. We'll give it a go over here. I think this is a really good area for a good shot at a decent fish. Righty, let's try this again. It's nice clean gravel there. I don't think that's a red, but I'm going to try and avoid it anyway. So as I said, we've got a bit more pace to work with here. Just gives the fish less chance to see that fly in any detail as it's coming at them. It could well be that these coloured beads work better in this faster water. It's a great theory anyway. I'm hoping it works. Right, so I've just jumped out of there for a second. Obviously one of the effects of there being more water, with the water being higher and being faster, is that it means that I need more weight to get down. And even with the heaviest of the bead flies I've got tied up, I'm not actually getting down to the bottom. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to switch out the point fly, which is one of my bead flies, and just switch that to one of my really heavy regular point flies. Obviously we're not going to count any fish that get caught on that fly, but it will give me a chance to get the other 2 bead flies down into the zone where they should be fishing properly, and hopefully that will give me a better chance of catching a few fish. So aside from that heavier point fly itself sinking quicker, which is great news, it also means that it's going to drag the other 2 flies down faster. So actually, while I've been in there re-rigging, I've also changed both of the droppers to just something a little bit lighter. I've got dropped down to 2.5 millis on both other flies, so I can now just rely on that big heavy point fly doing the job. It's not happening. That's another pull with not even a touch, and I really mean that. No bunt fish, really nothing that seemed even remotely like a take. I've got one last pull. I'm going to give this one more pull. I've come here to do this out of curiosity, and I think that my curiosity has been satisfied. This isn't working, and I don't feel like it's going to. I'm going to give it one last shot in a really productive pull, and then what we're going to do is we're going to swap over. We're going to go back to fish normal flies, and I'm going to fish each of the areas I've already fished again. I'm going to fish them with flies this time rather than just with the beads, and I reckon I've got a much better chance of catching a few fish. Okay, so this pool behind me is the last throw of the dice with the bead flies. This is it. If these don't work, I'm switching straight over to some actual flies. I'm absolutely sure I should be cranking on some fish. This is a really good pool. It's one of my absolute favourites. Fishes well generally in most conditions. Looks particularly hot today. This is the juice. If they're not here, if they're not going to eat the bead flies in here, it's not happening. Last roll of the dice. We'll give it 10 minutes. Last roll of the dice with these bead flies. I ought to mention actually while I'm climbing in that I've changed that point fly again. I've taken off the big heavy things. That was going to be too much to fish this inside seam with. So I've gone back to the white bead I had on earlier. I'll probably have to go back to the heavy one as I move across, but just for the inside it would have been way too much. Let's give this a go. This is a good spot. I like this place. I feel like if I'm going to get one, it's just as likely to be here as anywhere else. Oh, it's a fish. That's a fish. It's a fish on a bead. Go on, go on, go on. Yeah, we've done it. Woohoo! That is A grayling on a bead fly. We did it! Get in! We did it! We actually managed to get a proper fish, a wild grayling on one of the bead flies. It's probably not going to be the most impressive grayling you've ever seen, but there it is. It's an actual grayling. A slippy grayling, but an actual grayling on nothing but a bead. Mission accomplished. We did it. I want to get another now. Sick. So, not the biggest grayling I've ever caught, but it ate a bare bead, and that was the whole reason for coming here, to see if it was actually possible. That'd be really cool. Be really cool to get another couple just to kind of justify it. Is that a fish? Oh, it is. It's another fish. It's another one. It's a better one. What have I got? Oh geez, whatever this is, it's a much bigger fish. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh no, it's off. What was that? Never even saw it. That's 2 fish hooked on the bead. That's not a fish, that's a snag. I don't want to risk losing those flies. Nah, I'm gonna have to break that off. That was a bad idea. I've just broken everything off. That's frustrating. What are the chances of that? I've got both the tippet rings and the point dropper, but everything else has snapped. Right, you have to give me a few minutes to re-rig, eh? Well, geez, that got exciting there for a few minutes. Tiny little fish on the bead fly, and then 2 casts later I hooked something much bigger. I never even saw that fish before it came off. Really frustrating. I'd have loved to have seen what it was. In truth, I don't know. It could have been a trout, it could have been a grayling. Whatever it was much bigger. Obviously snagging all 3 flies on the bottom wasn't ideal, but I've re-rigged and I've put all 3 flies on exactly the same as they were before. That worked, so I don't want to change anything. I want to try and catch a few more fish on this before I start doing too many experiments. So no more fish from that pool, and that is the bead experiment over. Plan now is to switch back, or switch to, sorry, some normal flies. I'm going to go back to the first spot I fished, and I'm going to go through them one by one, and my plan is, if I think it's going to work out how I think it is, my plan is just to catch 1 or 2 fish from each spot. And all that's going to do is that's going to reassure me that there were fish there in the first place, and it wasn't just the beads, or, you know, I want to make sure that it was just the beads. Conditions look really good, so I feel like I had a good chance of catching a few fish today, but there's only one way to find out, and that's by fishing it properly, so that's the next plan. Okay, so back up at that first spot now, and I've actually got 3 actual flies on. I'm going to fish exactly the same way. My intention is to fish this inside seam just like I did last time. Actually, the 3 flies that I've got on, the point flies are red tags. I thought that was nice and generic, but the other 2 have got the same colour beads on that I was using before. I've stuck mostly to the pink and the orange beads, and I want to try and match that as closely as possible, so we'll give these a go. I'm pretty confident I'll catch some fish, though the weather's changed. It's got a lot darker, and it's 1:30 now. I've only really got another 45 minutes of good fishing time left, so I've got to make the most of it. So I'm going to stop waffling, crack on in the river. As I say, my intention is to not spend too much time in each spot, but just to try and catch a couple of fish out of each spot, just to prove to myself that they were there. Oh, there's one. There's a grayling. What was that, 3rd cast, 4th cast? Oh, good fish, tumbling. Doing that horrible thing they do where you can just tell they're wrapping everything up. Oh, come this way. He's taken that bright orange bead. That is, to me, that is super conclusive. I mean, he's taken the bright orange beaded fly now. Yeah, there we go. Now you'd have said that the key attraction about that fly would have been that bright orange bead, but clearly, aside from the bead, there has to be something around the fly that's a little bit more natural. I mean, that is absolutely perfect. That's exactly why I've come here. It's exactly why I wanted to do this experiment. Well, that's worked out absolutely perfectly. I mean, the hook fell out in the net, but that guy there, ooh, slippy, really fancied that orange bead. Now, you would think with a fly like that with a bright orange, fluorescent orange bead on the front of it, that the key attraction there is that colour, but clearly there has to be something a bit more natural in the fly to turn these fish on. Beautiful fish. I'm going to slip him back. One more from this spot would be great. Hey. Well, it's a little bit bigger than the one I had on the bright orange bead down at the bottom, but crikey, he is a tiny little grayling. Still, that's 2 to the flies in 5 minutes. And another one on that bright orange bead. So, one good one, 2 little dinks, and I think that's point proven in this pool. So I'm going to jump out of this one. We'll go walk up to the next one, see if we can get a couple out there as well. I mean, while it may well be that the bead only flies thing seems like a bit of a fail, actually for me this is really, really cathartic, because I've had this thought in my mind for so long, you know, is it just the colour of those beads? Is it really just the sight of it that's triggering these fish? And actually it looks very much like it, isn't it? It looks like you really do need there to be something behind this to make it look like a bug, to make it look like a natural. What this has proven to me is maybe these grayling aren't as daft as I think they are. Right, so spot number 2 didn't produce at all, and to be honest I'm a little bit surprised about that, but it probably didn't help that I fouled my flies up in the tree and waded across the pool to get them just as I was getting into the muddy water, so I don't know. Anyway, back up to spot 3, really, really nice little part of the river. I'd have thought we'd see a few more fish in here. Okay, so here I am climbing into pool number 4, and pools number 2 and 3 produced absolutely nothing. I was really surprised at that. It suggests that maybe it's just not a great day for grayling fishing at all, and perhaps I can't blame the beads too much, which is really frustrating, because I've kind of felt like after catching 3 fish in 5 minutes out of the first run that I'd pretty much got this locked down, and now I don't feel like that at all. So I'm going to split this pool into 2. This bit down at the bottom where I am now is much deeper, so I'm going to stick with a really, really heavy point fly through here. If I don't get anything here, I'll jump out and I'm going to switch to a lighter point fly, and we'll give it a go in the top bit where I caught the fish on the beads earlier. Right down there, right down in the depths. It's only another dink, but it is another fish at least. Tiny little G. Lots of those around at the moment, that's for sure. Oh, there he goes. Right down at the bottom here in the dead mill section. So only one more fish out of that pool on the real heavy stuff. I must admit I didn't think that's where the fish were going to be in this pool. My feeling is that if the fish are still feeding, they're going to be in the slightly shallower area. So what I've done is I've switched over and put that red tag back on that I started on originally on the flies. And we'll give it another 10 minutes. In truth, I've lost the best time of day now. It's starting to go a little bit darker. That cloud's really thickened up, which definitely hasn't helped. So I think we've got maybe 10 or 15 minutes more fishing at the very most. And hopefully at the end of that, we'll have a slightly more conclusive conclusion as to whether or not you actually need to tie a fly behind a tungsten bead. My feeling is you probably do. Righty, come on Andy, one last big effort. Let's get a couple of fish out here. There's a fish. Oh, he's off. Dang it. Oh, there's another. Oh, that's a good fish. That's a rainbow. That's not a grayling. Oh dear. This would be a good test of the 2-weight rod. That's a dirty girt, out of season, stocky rainbow. There's been a number of these appeared in the river since the end of the trout season. I get the feeling that one of the local clubs has had a buy one get 10 free deal from a fish farm. Oh wow, this thing's he's down there now. Come back. To be honest, I wouldn't mind too much if this fish came off, because I want to catch some grayling. Ooh. Right, that's all that line gone again. Yeah, that was him right down there. Great. That's fly line. So we've got a 40-foot French leader, 10 feet from the French leader to the point fly, and now we've got about 20 feet of fly line out as well. I might have to chase after this in a minute. Yeah, I get a feeling. Yeah, I'm gonna have to jump out and chase this fish around the corner. Oh dear me. I wonder if I fouled it or something. It's miles away. Absolutely miles away from me now. Let's jump down here. Ugh. Oh no. Just dropped my phone and my microphone in the mud. Ah, bugger. IB will tell me off for that. Right. This thing is kicking my butt at the moment. I'm not chasing around. Oh dear me. I have a feeling this is fouled. Yeah, it's coming in basically backwards at the moment. There he is. There he goes. Come back. For goodness sake, come on. Thank goodness for that. Jeez. Right. Just take him round the corner to unhook him, because it's going to need a little bit of attention. I can see those flies are all wrapped around his back end, around his tail and stuff. Now, anyone who's watched the vlog or knows me knows that I'm really anti-stock fish. I really wish they weren't in here. That's what all that fuss was about. It's a solid fish. Oh. There he goes, loads of energy. Oh, unlike me, I'm absolutely knackered after that. One of the disadvantages of not doing any fishing for a while is you end up really unfit, and I'm definitely that right now. Okay, right. So I'll jump out, I'll tie another fly on, see if we can catch a bloody grayling. There's a fish. Oh no. What now? What's this one? This doesn't feel like a grayling again. Oh wow, whatever it is, it feels heavy. Not downstream again. Why do I feel like this is going to be another one of those bloody rainbows? Ah. Oh, there goes the French leader. Yeah, there goes the fly line. £2 4oz tippet. There is nothing I can do about this. All I'm going to do, that's all I can do, is just keep steady side strain. See, a lot of people when they're playing fish, particularly on the French leader, they want to, wave the rod all over the place. And I really don't think that does any good at the moment. Actually, the position I'm in, I think, is a good one, because currently I've got the rod side strain in this direction. I'm pulling the fish away from the faster water, This is as good a position I could be in. If I had the rod over this side, I'd be pulling against the flow, I'd be pulling it into the faster water, and that just wouldn't be a good place to play a fish from, whereas where I am now, it's about as good as it's going to get. But I still think the odds of landing this fish are pretty stacked against me. Big head shakes. This must be another one of those rainbows. Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. There he goes. There he goes. Right now, at this point, I really don't have any choice but to pull this way because he's boring hard for these reeds on the right-hand side. So this really is the only instance where I make much of an angle change. He's directly downstream from me. He's just come up to the surface. That's the first time I've seen this fish on the top, so that might be a little victory. Ooh, strong though, jeez, really strong. Right, so sorry about the chest cam dying there, it's a bit of a pain. Just give you a quick lift of what we've got here. I was hoping for a nice big grayling out of here, but instead we end up with a big old brownie. Going to slip him straight back. Well, that would kind of explain why the grayling fishing has been a little bit harder. If these trout are this active, if they're still in the prime feed lies, then the grayling are going to find it hard to get any kind of look in, really. I mean, I hooked one back here and then I had the tiny one down there, but actually it's been really, really hard. I'm going to give it another 5 minutes or so, but I reckon I've probably about cooked the goose on this one. We'll give it a go. Surprise! I hadn't realised that the GoPro had died and that the stick cam had died at pretty much exactly the same time, which essentially left me with nothing to be able to record the rest of the vlog with, so that's where I've had to end it back in the car. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I found that really interesting. It threw up some conclusions that I perhaps wasn't expecting, and it's left me with a few bits still to be worked out. I think it is possible that you can go and catch a few grayling on naked beads without any dressing. Whether I think you'd want to, or whether I think that gives you any advantage over fishing a conventional fly with a tungsten bead, I really don't think it does. I think if you want to catch grayling, you're much better off using your chosen colour of bead and tying something just behind it. Now that might seem a really obvious conclusion, and maybe with the benefit of hindsight it is an obvious conclusion, but it's something that's been bugging me for years, and I now know that yeah, it definitely is possible to catch grayling with a naked bead, but there's no real benefit to it. In truth, it was a pretty tough day full stop. I will say that the naked beads had the very best of the time of day. Once it got past about 1:30, that cloud got a little bit thicker and it actually got quite difficult. So I'd say that not only have the actual flies outfished the naked beads, but they also did it at a harder time of day. So definitely a big win here for the flies. I hope you've really enjoyed the vlog. I really enjoyed making it. As I say, it's been on my mind for a long time, and it's nice to be able to get it out of my system. If you like it, please give a little thumbs up in the area just below. Really appreciate that. If you like the stuff we're doing, please hit subscribe on the subscribe button below and ring the little bell so you get notifications when we upload. We're going to be doing more uploading going forwards, I promise. Now we're both a little bit better. So please keep an eye out for that. And we'll see you guys very, very soon for another episode of I Being Andy Fishing. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.